all of you here were a part of the team that rescued me. And I want to personally thank you for that. Now, the day that I went into work prior to flying this combat mission, I hadn't flown for 10 days. I was at a temporary duty station. I came back to where I'm permanently assigned in northern Italy as an F-16 pilot. You would think that my job is to fly an airplane. But we all have desk jobs in our squadrons as pilots. And we have to be supervisors or run functional shops, the training shop, weapons shop, scheduling shop, intel shop. I had just taken over to run the unit life support shop. And I'm sitting down at my desk when a good friend of mine, another pilot, who's our scheduler, came to me and he said, Scott, tomorrow on the 2nd of June, there's an opening here to fly a combat mission. I'm writing your name down. I want you to fly that mission. Because for the next month and a half on the schedule, all we have are training missions. But because you fly this one combat mission in the month of June, it will still qualify you for your hostile fire pay bonus for that month. See, as fighter pilots, when we flew combat missions, whether one mission in the month or more, it didn't matter, you'd receive a bonus of $150. I want you to know it wasn't worth that $150. And we laughed and joked about the fact that we even got the bonus. The reason why is that you don't join the military to get rich. No, you join to serve. You volunteer because you believe in defending our freedom and our quality of life and making this world a more peaceful place. That's the only reason why you wear that uniform. Now, when I went to work, I met up with Captain Bob Wright on the 2nd of June. We're both equally qualified as flight leaders, but only one person can lead at a time. You never send a single aircraft into hostile territory. You always have a minimum of 2 aircraft to have a team, an element to support each other. But as the assigned leader, Wilbur had to make the decisions, run the tactics, keep tabs on the radios, and watch the weather. And I was sitting there flying a good formation off of his aircraft and backing up his decisions. Our mission was to enforce a no-fly zone over the skies of Bosnia. That's in Eastern Europe. There was an atrocious war occurring in the 1990s, from 92 to 99, with atrocities that we haven't seen in Europe since Hitler. Genocide occurred there. Concentration camps. Death squads would go in and kill people in the villages, specifically the males, from young boys to elderly. They would burn people alive in their houses. They would rape the women for systematic psychological warfare. There were people that stepped on landmines, were maimed and killed. Snipers would shoot people in the villages as they would try to go up the streets. They estimate about 400,000 civilians were killed in cold blood. Just to give you one example, a month after I was shot down in the city of what I pronounce Srebrenica, death squads came in, UN peacekeepers fled, and 8,000 plus males dead, dumped into mass graves. The international community actually just saw this devastation to the civilian populace and how evil this was and wanted to promote peace there. And while I was flying there, we enforced a no-fly zone over those skies of Bosnia, preventing any of the warring factions from flying their aircraft overhead so they can't use air superiority and just drop bombs on people. Well, as part of the NATO alliance, we came in to police that UN resolution, like a police officer out patrolling your neighborhood, enforcing a curfew 24 hours a day. But I need you to envision some things that are very important. We were not there as a warring faction at that time. We're there solely on a peacekeeping effort, but all the integrated air defense systems in that country are still in place. What does that mean? It means that all the radar sites can look up and watch where we're flying, and they know exactly where we are 24 hours a day. All their communication posts can listen in on our frequencies. They knew everything there was to know about our operations. There were no secrets out there. But then even more threatening to us, all the missile sites and all the large gun emplacements were able to shoot up at us. Rules of engagement were that if we were engaged and shot out from the ground, we cannot defend ourselves by using our bombs to destroy that site. All we could do is dodge the missiles and vacate the area. That was like walking through a minefield out there, trying not to be shot at. And Bosnia is not a big country. It's about 2 hours for us to randomly patrol the entire area. And on this mission, we're monitoring the northwest corner of Bosnia. Intel told us when we do that, we'll have missile sites to our west, to our north, and our northeast. What we didn't know is that because we flew an oval pattern in that northwest corner for over a year's time, the enemy had brought in a mobile radar-guided site a missile battery, placed it below us, camouflaged it to set up a trap to shoot one of us down. Unfortunately, I get caught in the trap. Wilbur and I are flying in a formation we call tactical line abreast. That means we're actually parallel to each other. We can look over each other's shoulder and behind each other and make sure nobody's sneaking up from behind us. And we're about 2 miles apart for maneuvering. And we have an altitude stack. And we're looking out for enemy aircraft with our onboard radar and our visual lookout. When I hear on the radio, Basher 5-1 threat east. Look inside my cockpit and my threat warning system, don't have a warning. Wilbur's warning goes away within seconds. Inside of our aircraft, we have a radar warning receiver. Similar to you speeders out there who have radar detectors in your cars. But ours is a little more sophisticated than yours. But not only are we talking to each other about this threat, there's an airborne command post, similar to an AWACS aircraft, that radios up to the U-2 reconnaissance airplane overhead and other intelligence gathering networks to see, was there an enemy radar detected below us that we didn't know about? If something had come back saying that there was an enemy radar underneath us, we would have vacated the area. But we were told we were in the clear, so we thought. We came up to Croatia now in the border, and we can't cross that for political reasons. We turned back eastbound. After flying down track for a few moments, I receive a warning in my airplane. I look outside to see if we're being shot at. I never saw the missile. From the time I get an uncorrelated lock to where the missile impacts, about 6 seconds. I'm shortly underneath the parachute right after that. Never had enough time to go through a full defensive maneuver. And as I'm coming down to hit the decoy, I have a red flash goes off the right side of my aircraft, and then bam, the missile impacts. Now, it's not until I'm in the hospital after I'm rescued where I can talk to Wilbur on the phone for the first time, ask him, what happened during that missile engagement? I didn't see the missile. He said 2 were shot, and they came up from underneath us. The first missile went right in between us. Second one came up, hit dab smack in the belly of your aircraft. I saw the airplane explode. It broke up into pieces. The nose section was on fire, and it fell off into the clouds. He said, Scott, I didn't see eject. I didn't see a parachute, and I thought you were dead. You know what I told him? I said, wow, that must have been really cool to watch. Who here seen something like that in real life? And then we started joking, and I thought, wait a minute, that's not that funny. I almost died. The only thing I can conclude about laughing about it is that in all of our lives, we're going to have difficulties and face challenges and hardships. But we're also going to face wonderful, joyful moments that we'll cherish with family and friends. But no matter where you are in life on this roller coaster ride, I think it's important to maintain a sense of humor, because I am convinced that God has a sense of humor. I think he's looking at me and laughing all the time. But when that cockpit started to break apart in front of me, I'm immediately engulfed in flames. And I'm reaching for that ejection handle as fast as humanly possible. And at that point, I thought my life was over. And I prayed and I said, Dear Lord, if it be your will, I don't want this to be the end of my life. And I selfishly still had something I wanted to live for. Much to my relief, I pull that handle, and the canopy on the F-16 departs. I'm ejected out at 27,000 feet, parallel with the horizon. I remember seeing pieces of the aircraft now flying around me. And it's here that if I would let the ejection system work on automatic mode, the seat will have me in a free falling down to an altitude of 15,000 feet above sea level, then the parachute should automatically open up. Well, that's only if everything's working right. You have to understand, I'd just been on fire, and I figure my parachute is packed right behind me. It maybe is still burning. It may never open. And now I'm looking down at the ground 5 miles below me thinking I'm just going to fall to my death. And that deeply disturbed me. True confession, I'm afraid of heights. So I wanted to know if that parachute would function at all. So I pulled the manual override handle. Much to my relief, parachute opens up, descent rate slows down. Well, unfortunately, when you're shot down over hostile territory, you land right on top of the people that shoot you down. There was no guessing who I was. I looked like the Goodyear blimp over Bosnia. My parachute's colored white, brown, green, and orange. And I could see the death squads coming down to greet me, so I knew I wasn't going to have much time. As soon as I hit the ground, I got into a hiding spot, called out, nobody answered back. Within moments, I heard people around me. Shut off my radio. The 2 things I'm very hypersensitive to the entire time I'm there are motion and noise. Because even the slightest of those could draw attention to my location, and that could get me killed. And I hit in 3 different locations, evaded over the course of 2 different nights. I was there for 6 days, but I thought I was going to be there longer. Had no food with me. I was hypothermic and shivering the entire time. I could see the enemy walking nearby me almost every day, except for the last day I found a better hiding spot. The first 2 days I could actually see the pilots inside their helicopter searching for me, and then I could hear them off in the distance the days afterwards.